Former Ogun State Governor and the former House of Reps Speaker were received today by President Buhari, stating their decision for joining the APC. And more reactions trail the federal government's plans to spend $1.5 billion on the rehabilitation of Port Harcourt Refinery. Tonight, we hear from a foremost Nigerian political economist, Professor Pat Utomi. Hello everyone and welcome to Politics Today on Channels Television. I'm Sean Kimbali at Channels Television's global headquarters in Lagos, Nigeria. Today, the President Muhammadu Buhari received two politicians who've just joined his party, the ruling All Progressives Congress APC. The former governor of Ogun State, Mr. Gbenga Daniel, and a former Speaker of the House of Representatives, Mr. Dimeji Bankole, met with the president alongside the governor of Yobe State, Mai Mala Buni, who is also the APC caretaker chairman. The two politicians who are just joining the ruling party are explaining their reasons for their defections.
One thing that is for sure is that the entire world is going through challenges. There are global challenges, economic challenges, health challenges. And when you are in a situation like this, as I've usually opined, we should do less of partisan contestation. All of us must come together to support whoever is in power. And what we have decided to do is to come and give our support to the president so that jointly we can continuously navigate the country. That is what it's all about.
Any reasonable human being should realize that the leadership of this country needs everyone's support at this moment. From Borno to Lagos, from Bayelsa to Sokoto, these are critical times. And we shouldn't be found wanting. This is the time to step up and support so that these decisions can be taken, executed, and owned by us as a nation.
Tonight, we have some robust conversation around what you saw right here on this platform, 8 p.m. on Sunday. That is yesterday. We had an exclusive interview with the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Timi Presiva, explaining the decision of the federal government on spending $1.5 billion. And tonight, we'll be getting some expert opinion. There is private. Professor Pat Utomi will be speaking to us. But before we get into that conversation, let's get some other stories on our political roundup.
The House of Representatives has begun the process of reviewing the Constitution. The Deputy Speaker of the House and Chairman of the committee, Idris Wase, is ruling out some of the areas which require urgent attention, to include improvement of electoral system, judicial reforms, local government reforms, which he says would address insecurity and underdevelopment in the country. According to him, other areas of focus would be creation of special constituencies for women to encourage women participation in politics, education reforms and improvement in fundamental human rights. He was speaking at a retreat organized for members of the Constitution Review Committee in Abuja.
The other side of the divide that we're looking, or other side of the mirror that we're looking at, is that in other climes, what they did was to create special constituencies for the women. And I think that also could be achieved in Nigeria.
The Minister of Defense, Major General Bashir Magashi, has restated the need to adopt kinetic measures to address the current security challenges in the country. At a security summit held at the National Defense College, Abuja, Major General Magashi assures that the current government is working hard to restore stability in the country and will continue to explore all possible approaches to making that possible. As the tussle on who occupies the Imo North Senatorial District seat at the National Assembly persists, A group under the aegis of Okigwe Zono Progressive Youth Alliance has staged a protest at the office of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, in Owerri, the Imo State capital, demanding that INEC declare winner and issue certificate of return to the candidates of the People's Democratic Party at the election, Emmanuel Okewulonu. According to the group, they are concerned that 3 months after the by-election, the people of Imo North Senatorial District are still being denied a representation at the Red Chambers due to the ineptitude of the ruling All Progressives Congress and INEC. The group maintained that APC, which was declared winner of the election, never had a candidate, and as the 2 leading candidates of the APC were disqualified by the court before the election. The group urges INEC to do the right thing and declare Emmanuel Okewulonu of PDP as the winner, having scored the highest number of valid votes in the election.
Okigwe Zonal Youth Progressive Alliance demands that Chief Emmanuel Okewulonu of People's Democratic Party be declared winner and issued certificate of return.
Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us. This right here is our focus tonight. It's become a major conversation on a national scale. So tonight, more reactions have continued to trail the decision of the federal government to rehabilitate the Port Harcourt Refinery for $1.5 billion. We had an exclusive interview with the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Femi Silva, where he explained to us the agenda and the plans of the federal government. But tonight, we're getting some other views of private persons, and that of Professor Pat Utomin, a political economist, on the economics of the decision of the federal government. But let's check out some information that might be key for this conversation tonight. Of course, we know that we have 4 refineries altogether with a combined installed capacity of 445,000 barrels per day. Bad news is that none of these 4 refineries are working at the moment. And also, bad news is that a very bad maintenance culture over 20 years, these refineries weren't touched in terms of turnaround maintenance. So let's move forward and get a sense of what these 4 refineries are. There are 2 installations in Port Harcourt, and the timeline of that Port Harcourt refinery is very interesting, one which we'll touch on the program tonight. But these are what you need to know in terms of the capacity. Don't forget, there is a big project in the offing. That is the Dangote Refinery that seems to be bringing a good news in terms of local consumption or the local refining of oil in Nigeria. When that comes on stream, it will change a lot of things. But if all of these work also, it will change a lot of things in terms of our consumption. Experts have said if you have all of this capacity locally refined in Nigeria, plus Dangote refining locally also, it will help us meet our demands locally. We will not import. We will rather be exporting refined products in Nigeria. And so all of those transactions will be done in Naira. So good news. But if you look at what the mathematics of the monies, the $1.5 billion the federal government is planning to spend, this is what we know for now. The minister told us that NNPC will devote $200 million out of the $1.5 billion. The federal government, out of appropriation in 3 different tranche of the budget, we have in the 2020 appropriation, we have $350 million. In the 2021 appropriation, it will be $350 million, and 2022 it will be $100 million, and the Afri-Exim Bank will be bringing on the table $500 million. What we understand and what we know is that the minister told us that independent people, experts, outside of government are the ones who are going to be taking over the run in the rehabilitation, and at the end of the day, they are hoping that it will make profit. But from the eye of the average Nigerian, what does this mean? These 210,000 barrels per day refinery to be fixed with 1.5 billion US dollars, what does it mean? If you take a look at how they hope to go about the rehabilitation, they're telling us that in 18 months, the first phase will be over. Second phase will be done in 24 months. And the third phase will be done in 44 months. That's how the work will be. Politically speaking, if you look at the calendar, it means that all of this rehabilitation might be sometimes some few months after the Buhari government. But we are told that in the 18 months, that refinery will be up to speed as much as 90% of its capacity. What does this mean for us, everyone? Don't forget, this refinery, let me give you a brief history of what this refinery means. It was commissioned first and foremost in 1965. It was at that moment, it had 38,000 barrels per day, but the capacity was increased when a new facility on the same ground was built in 1988 and commissioned in 1989 with 150,000 barrels per day added to it. And in 2000, that is the first time where you will find the turnaround maintenance being done. In 2019, NNPC also planned a rehabilitation. One of the questions we threw to the minister yesterday, and in 2021, it's a plan of the federal government under the Buhari government to spend 1.5 billion US dollars. What does this mean for us as a nation, everybody? Are we making money? Are we making sense in our decision as a people? Let's get talking now. I have joining me Professor Patu Tomi, a political economist, to give us a sense of what this means. Thank you so much, Professor. Let's get your immediate reactions. You heard, you saw what the minister told us yesterday. What are your views on the minister's explanation?
Well, Shehu, I think this is really a very simple and straightforward matter. The minister said that he knows that NNPC has a frightening record running such. So, in his own considered opinion, it does not make sense for NNPC to try and run such a facility. So, period. Case closed. He has summed it up himself. But he says, you see, so that we can sell it, we have to build a new refinery to sell it. Shehu, I don't understand the logic. If you want a refinery built, because you're building a new refinery, you can't be refurbishing this refinery. If you're refurbishing it, anybody who is trying to refurbish this, and let me tell you the most intelligent way to refurbish a refinery like this. It's not a new thing. It's been done all over the world when a facility is not competitive, is not running well. A couple of years ago, the British found that their motor industry was in such a parlor state. Rolls-Royce could not possibly make profit. Jaguar could not. BMW bought the thing for £1. I think that if the federal government sells the Port Harcourt refinery for £1 to somebody who promises to spend whatever it is, 1.5 billion, 200 million, whatever, to get it running, fine. I have no complaint. That's what intelligent people all over the world who have an uncompetitive facility do to get it off their chest, off their backs. But not that you spend $1.5 billion in a country that is in such desperate poverty that every dime we could find can be invested in productive areas that can create jobs and expand opportunity for the young of this country who are more than 30% out of work, 33%. I don't think that it just makes any sense at all. Let me give you real examples from our experience of this kind of choice. When General Obasanjo was elected in 1999, the power sector was in a parlor state. There was an attempt to examine the sector to see what to do. There was a conclusion by the experts that there was no point in throwing good money after bad, and that we should more or less literally mothball that sector, invest in new facility, new infrastructure. Countries like Vietnam coming out of war essentially recognized where that was for them, brought in Enron badges to come and give temporary power while they were building a new power infrastructure. So the government agreed to go that way. But suddenly some people got wise, went to the new power minister, and just after Agagu took over from Chief Bolaige, and said, look, no, we can, if we just got, almost like this kind of statement we heard about Port Harcourt Refinery, if we can just get X $100 million, we can get those things to work, and then it will be run by, I had a sense of deja vu when I was hearing the statement being made, like, oh my God, I've heard this before. All right. It was a statement.
Prof.
Wait a minute, Shehu. That money was invested in power, and it turned out to be a complete waste of Nigeria's money. It's exactly what we are trying to repeat with the Port Harcourt Refinery. It does not make any sense in economic logic.
Great. Interesting. Prof, your expertise, both in politics and economics, give us a sense to break this down. We have two options, like a lot of experts have also said, fixing before selling, or selling, then whoever buys fixes. The mathematics of it will break down after this break, Prof. We'll be back after this time out, everyone. Join us again. All right, 4 Nigerian refineries are not working. The federal government says it hopes to fix one of them. But what does this mean mathematically, economically? 1.45 billion US dollars is planned to be spent. The federal government have explained their own part on how they want to go about it. But from the expert's point of view, what does this mean for us as a people? And that's why we have Professor Pat Utomi, a famous Nigerian political economist. He's on the program tonight. Thank you so much, Prof, for joining us. There are those of the views that, look, well, the minister said there was a time that, in fact, some of these refineries were sold. There are those of the view that sell it and let whoever who buys it go and fix it. But the minister told us that the federal government's position is that based on the Ajaokuta experience, they do not want a repeat of that scenario because according to him, it was balkanized and the situation got worse for the federal government and they don't want a repeat of it. And so he's saying they want to fix before he's selling it. Do you disagree with that?
Completely, totally, without even pausing to think. Why? Because I've thought enough about it to recognize that if you commercially, look, what happened with Indorama and the petrochemicals plant in Port Harcourt in the same place? Indorama is today one of the more profitable companies in our country. Did the federal government spend 1.5 billion and then sell it to Indorama? Think about that. If the people who we are preparing it for sale to think it is valuable, they will borrow. I have said sell it for 1 naira. I'm not saying haggle with them over 200 billion. Accept that. Look, Shehu, when you are losing money, cut your loss and move on. Do you know how much was spent running a refinery that did not produce anything last year, year before last? The day that you sell it for 1 naira, you end that whole outflow. This is old union type tactics. It belongs to the people, and then let me, if I give you another example, because it's good to compare notes from other sectors. Let it not seem like this is a peculiar thing. There was a time in Nigeria where we kept saying to ourselves, Nitel is such a valuable national asset. We need to invest so much in it so we can sell it. Look, in 1996, I was going off on sabbatical to go and write a book on precisely this subject. I was living in Boston. And I could not call Lagos. Like Lagos, it was just impossible. It was a nightmare. And here we were protecting the poor and all of that. Then a simple bid for spectrum space, and we ended that nightmare. So if we are going to end this nightmare, and believe me, there's another critical consideration here. What is the value of petrol? Where is it going to? We know that the world is moving away from fossil fuels. We know that 20 years from now, most cars will not be running on petrol. We know that Aliko Dangote is investing huge amounts of money that will be providing us petrol already, so that such an investment, after you've made it so you can sell it, will turn out to be a superfluous investment, a complete waste of money, because 20 years from now, petrol is not going to be what is running your car. Technology is moving so fast and changing so much, environmental pressures and issues are such that the world is moving away from fossil fuels. This is the reason that Total is selling down it, or considers its assets, its entire crude oil assets in Canada, to be worth zero 18 years from now. If we take just this sheer reality about the state of fossil fuels, we will ask ourselves, why are we not prioritizing better? Why are we spending this money that could create a new economy, help us move away from this mentality of obsession with fossil fuels, and diversify the base of our economy with this money that we're going to be using to just produce some more petrol, which you and I know the way that the tradition of managing these refineries have gone. How can you have 4 refineries, none of them is producing anything? Doesn't that tell you that there is some reason why? I used to have a friend from my old school who ran Warri Refinery many years ago. Each time we came to old boys meetings and he tells the story of his nightmare running the Warri Refinery. On Friday morning, suddenly a critical part will break down, quote unquote, and they will come running to him. If you don't fix it now, there'll be petrol queue. The country will go upside down. He'll be going crazy. Find any money from anywhere. The person has to fly to London this night. They've just removed the part, put it in their garage. He finds a couple of $1,000 or tens of thousands of dollars to fly to London to go and get the part. The guy goes to his garage, brings it out. The thing is working on Monday. This is a nightmare that the refineries have been for so many years. Why do we want to continue to inflict it on the Nigerian people?
But Prof, it does look,
anybody else can produce it.
It does look like
Yes.
the federal government has made up its mind on this move. Steps have been taken for these monies to come to the table. Appropriations are being set aside in this regard. Afri-Exim Bank has agreed to this deal. Are you asking the federal government to go back on these plans? Is that practically possible?
Absolutely practically possible. Absolutely practically possible. Sorry, you see, and that's what's wrong. They should not make that kind of commitment in a democracy without putting this to the National Assembly and public hearings taking place around this. This is, you see, in a democratic process, there is something called the complex redundancy that leads to efficient choice. A guy called Ron Wildavsky at the University of Southern California many years ago looked at the US policy process and gave its strength as the complex redundancy. If this had gone to a committee of National Assembly and there had been a public hearing by the subcommittee on petroleum refineries and people had come out to speak on the options that are available and are possible. Look, we need refineries in Nigeria for export of what is here, but with new kinds of technologies in mind, bearing in mind that fossil fuels will not be so important a few years down the line. The technology is changing so fast that if we are obsessed with fixing an old refinery and some Italians just want to fix us something so they can make some money, we're just going to dump public money that will keep Nigerians poorer down the line. But if we had an entrepreneur who sees crude oil available in Nigeria and can refine this crude oil and sees the trends in technology and can add other things to make it some other things as the dependence on petrol changes in the way the world powers its automobiles down the line,
all right,
that entrepreneur will bring the money that is necessary from wherever it is because of the incentives that you provide them, not because you are paying to bring that
Prof,
in.
Yeah, in 60 seconds, we need to wrap up now. But, I mean, because this is a political program and the decision of the federal government is largely political too. And there are politicians who disagree with this government that are in the opposition who say that if they come into power, they are going to sell some of these facilities to their friends. That's one of the points that the present government is making, that any other view against their move is aligned to those politicians who believe that we should sell this asset. I mean, I know you disagree politically with this government. You are one of those who are thinking of alternative to this government. Prof, sir?
I'm a member of the party in power, don't forget.
Yes, but I mean, recently you hold a view that is totally against this government and how they're running government.
Where did you get that impression? I hold a view against the best interest of the Nigerian people. I have no views against any government. I have a view of an optimal policy choice. That is what, if political parties were well run, these are the kind of conversations that will take place inside the party to determine the direction of policy in the interest of the Nigerian people. And then the party and the government can express that position.
Prof, I think we should leave it at that. But many thanks for coming tonight and sharing your views on this very, very important matter. Professor Patu told me, political economist, thank you so much indeed for your time tonight.
A great pleasure.
But that's our show for tonight, everyone. Many thanks for watching. I'm Sean Kimale. Bye for now.